Okay, so leaving it all to the kids. We've all heard that one, right?
Right.
But what you're leaving them is a well, a headache,
Yeah.
like a whole commercial property you got to manage and all that.
Yeah.
And that's what we're gonna dive into today.
Yeah.
We've got this article by Rich Vaaler. He knows his stuff when it comes to commercial real estate,
He does. Yeah.
and it's called "Don't Leave It to the Kids."
Yeah, and don't let that title scare you. It's not about, leaving your kids high and dry. It's about, really thinking about what you're leaving them and if it's really going to be, a benefit or just a whole bunch of stress.
Yeah, because at first, you think inheriting a building, that sounds pretty sweet, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But Vaaler, he's really making the point that that could turn into a real job, a full-time thing.
Absolutely, yeah. And one of the first things he talks about is vacancy.
Okay.
So imagine this, right? You inherit a property, empty offices, empty storefronts, nobody there, and suddenly you're the landlord.
Oh boy.
You've got to figure out how to get tenants in, how to do the leases, and meanwhile you're paying for this thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, whoa, crash course in commercial real estate,
Whoa.
whether you wanted it or not.
And you're probably, still dealing with the loss of the person.
Absolutely, yeah. You're grieving. You're trying to figure all this stuff out.
Right.
It's a lot. And then on top of that, you've got what Vaaler calls deferred maintenance.
Okay, what's that now?
So you know how maybe the previous owner, they kept putting off that leaky roof?
No.
Or that old HVAC system that needs replacing?
Yeah.
Guess what? Now it's your problem.
Well, great.
Yeah, so those costs, they add up fast.
Yeah.
And it's just another thing, adding to the stress.
Yeah, it's like inheriting a to-do list, but it's from, it's from like the Twilight Zone or something.
Yeah.
It's full of stuff you don't even know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and just when you think it couldn't get any worse, there's this whole thing about refinancing debt.
Oh boy.
Let's say you inherit this property, right? And the interest rate, it's manageable.
Right.
Everything's, seems okay for a while. But then you got to refinance.
Yeah.
And suddenly interest rates, they've gone through the roof.
Well.
And that cash flow you had, positive, gone negative.
So you're in the hole now.
Yeah, you're on the hook for making up the difference.
Oof. Yeah, I can see why Vaaler called this article "Don't Leave It to the Kids."
Right. He's like, think about this, people. He wants people to really be smart about this.
Hmm.
Estate planning, especially when it comes to big, complicated stuff like commercial real estate.
Right.
And that's where he brings up this thing called a 1031 exchange.
Okay, 1031 exchange. So what is that? It sounds kind of complicated.
It can sound like that, but really it's about, when you sell an investment property and then you take that money and you buy another property, a like-kind property, you don't have to pay those capital gains taxes right away.
So you're like trading it up, but no big tax bill right then.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So instead of leaving the kids with this property that's a lot to handle, you could use this 1031 exchange to swap it out for something, simpler, easier to manage.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So like what would be an example of a simpler property?
Vaaler, he really likes these single tenant net lease properties, STNL they call them, or sometimes NN.
STNL.
NNN, okay. Yeah, so think of it like, your local pharmacy.
Huh?
Or maybe a fast food place, one of those standalone ones, just one tenant, and they're in it for the long haul, long-term lease.
Okay.
And the great thing is the tenant, they often cover most of the costs, the property taxes, insurance, even the maintenance.
Wow. So that is way less to worry about than like a whole office building.
Right, exactly. Less stress, less hassle.
Mm-hmm.
And here's another thing Valerie brings up. It's this concept called stepped-up basis.
Stepped-up basis.
Yeah. So basically, when you inherit something like a property, the cost basis, it gets adjusted. It's based on market value at the time you inherit it.
Okay, hold on. Break that down for me. What does that really mean for someone who's, inheriting a property?
Okay, so let's say your parents, they bought a commercial building for like $500,000.
Okay.
A while back, right? And now it's worth like $2 million.
Okay.
They leave it to you, you decide to sell it. Well, your cost basis, it gets reset to that $2 million, that market value from when you inherited it.
So you're not paying taxes on like The whole profit from way back when.
Right. You'd only owe taxes on any gain, any profit that happened after you inherited it.
That's
It
huge.
can be a huge saving, yeah.
Wow.
And that's why this whole 1031 exchange paired with this stepped up basis, it can be a really powerful strategy.
Okay, so let me see if I've got this straight. So you do this 1031 exchange,
Hmm.
you swap a complicated property for a simpler one, like one of those ST&L properties,
Right.
and then when the kids inherit it, they get that stepped up basis. So less taxes.
Exactly. You got it. It's
Yeah.
all about, planning ahead, being proactive.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, with anything this big, especially when you're talking taxes and all, you gotta talk to the
So
pros.
you're saying like it's not enough to just like find any old property to do this swap with.
Yeah.
You really got to have people, who know what they're doing helping you out.
Absolutely. This is where you want the experts in your corner, like a financial advisor. They can help you figure out, okay, does this 1031 thing even make sense for your situation, your goals, all that? And then of course, you need an estate attorney, someone who really understands real estate, the legal stuff, the tax stuff. They'll make sure everything's, buttoned up for your heirs.
Like building a really strong bridge, right? To something better for the people you care about.
I love that. It's about, yeah, leaving a legacy, but a good one, not a bunch of burdens and headaches.
This has really got me thinking though. What if this 1031 exchange, it's not just like an end of life planning thing. What if investors could use it, while they're still,
While they're still here. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We've been talking about inheritance, but this 1031 exchange, it's a tool you can use at different points in your life. Let's say you've had a rental property for a while and you're thinking, you know what? I want to try something else, maybe something that doesn't require so much, hands-on stuff. A 1031 exchange, that could be your ticket, and you could avoid that big tax hit too.
See, that's what I love about these deep dives, You learn something new every time. But okay, for our listener out there who's thinking, this all sounds great, but where do I even start? What would you say?
Start with what you know now. You've taken this deep dive, you're thinking about these things, that's huge. Talk to your family, let them know what you've learned, see where they're at with their planning. And if you're thinking about your own investments, find a good financial advisor, someone you trust, and ask them about this 1031 exchange. See if it lines up with what you want to do long term. The point is, it's never too early to start planning for yourself and for the people you care about.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And hey, if anyone out there has used this 1031 exchange in a really cool way, tell us about it. We love hearing those stories. Until next time, everybody, happy investing.